Hi everyone, this is Marie. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the Canadian Christmas video hop sponsored by Scrap and Stamp Canada. Today I'm going to make a Christmas card using a stamp set by My Favorite Things called Beast Friends, and I'm also going to use some foil dies by My Favorite Things as well and the Gemini foil press system. I am now using my Misti tool to stamp some images on Neenah white cardstock using the Gina K Design Amalgam ink. I'm going to color my images with Copic, so this is an ink that works great. You could also use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink that works great as well. This here is a pressure tool and I just got it and I'm really happy with it because I used to find it hard on my hands and on my skin when using my Misti. So what I like to do when I get a new stamp set is to stamp a whole bunch of cards with images so that when I'm ready to color, I have them handy and I don't need to take my Misti out all the time. What I'm doing right now is stamping some more images with the Memento ink colored desert sand, and this is perfect for no line coloring. I just started this technique with my Copic markers. I used to do it a lot with my Zig Clear Colors markers. It's like a watercolor technique, but now with my Copic markers, it's fun as well. So now I'm ready to start coloring these little beasts. Since they are white, I like to use some very pale blue just to add some shade or some shadow and give you the impression that the rest of the character is white. So the three colors that I'm using now are B01, B00, and B000. As you can see, I start with the darker blue, and then with the medium shade, I will go over the darker color and pull it out, so that the line created by the darker color is kind of melting. And then I will do the same with the third shade. And then I build my color like this. I will go back to the darker blue, go back to the medium one, and then again with the paler one at the very end. I try to leave a lot of white space, thinking that the blue is really only the shadow. Now I'm going to do the same thing with these like brown colors. I'm starting with the darker one and then I'm going to go over with the medium color, and I say it's the medium color because I'm going to use now my colorless blender to make a third shade. I do this by doing the tip-to-tip technique. So this is my colorless blender. As you can see, I touch my medium shade and that gives me like a third very pale shade, and I go over it again. Then I like to do this 2 times. So I start with the darker one, I go to the medium tone, and then I go to the lighter tone twice. I'm doing his face, the ears, and then the little feet of the guy that is sitting there with his cup. R20, this is my favorite color to do the cheek. When I do the cheek, I try to do it fast. Like if the face is still wet, the R20 will kind of spread in the face, so make little, it will be a little bit fuzzy around the circle. It won't be a hard line. Now I'm coloring the rest of the Yetis off camera, and this is now the green and red part. So to do the cup, I do the same. I start with the, well, here actually I started with the pale color, and then I'm going to do the shadow with the darker tones. I'm sorry. So these are the colors, and for a cup like this, you want to end the shading with like a straight line to create a curved surface. Once the cup will be dry, fully dry, I'm going to go back with a red and add a little heart on the cup. So if you want to add little motifs like this, over another color, you can, but you have to wait until the color is dry. Otherwise, it's going to do like it does when I add the cheek to the face. It's going to spread and you won't have a sharp outline. Using the greens, the two greens, I'm going to do my little trees. And these are my favorite Christmas reds. When I do a card like this, I try to limit my choice of colors so that it doesn't become like too busy to the eye. Sometimes it's tempting to add more colors, but just keeping it simple sometimes adds a lot to the card. You will notice at the very end when my card is done that I also added a snowflake on the red cup. And like on the green cup, I waited until the red was completely dry and then I used my white jelly roll pen to add the little snowflake. It's fun to use the white gel pen also to add some light in your image, so you can use it as a reflection on the mugs or even as snow on the trees. That's another fun thing to do. Now these are the hot foil dies by My Favorite Things. I use them with the Gemini foil press machine. So I start the machine, let it heat, and while it's heating, I place my die on the cardstock. I want to create a frame, so I try to center it as much as I can on the white cardstock. I can always trim the white afterwards, so it doesn't really matter if it's not centered. There is some kind of glue that is activated with heat under that foil. So that's how the foil is going to transfer on the cardstock. Once the die and foil are heated, I pass them through my electronic die cutter, the Gemini Jr. So both machines, they work together. And then the die will not only make the foil adhere to the cardstock, but it's also going to make an impression in the cardstock. So it's going to make a little effect of embossing. When you take away the hot foil plate, you have to be careful. It's very hot, so here I'm using a little rubber thingy. And now you can see the embossed and the foiled effect. So now I'm going to ink my background using these Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to use a mask from My Favorite Things. It's a hill mask, so you can use it to make hills, like grassy hills for summer scenes, but now I'm going to use it for snow, a snowbank. So I'm keeping it down with some post-it tape. So you don't have to cover the whole foil with your post-it tape because the foil is resisting the ink, so it can be wiped down when you're done inking. So I'm using 3 shades of blue. And I'm starting with the paler one, then the medium one, and the darkest one. And it kind of looks like a mud pit right now, but once the ink is dry, it's going to all blend together and it makes a beautiful sky. The colors that I'm using are speckled egg, prize ribbon, and chipped sapphire. You could play with any blues you have though. So now it's time for the big reveal, taking the mask away. This is always the fun part of the project. I'm wiping carefully so that the ink that is still on the foil won't blend into my white frame. Now I'm going to add a sentiment using my Misti tool again. That's a perfect tool to align your sentiments. Now if you worked with Oxide inks, your background will still be wet, so you want to make sure that it's really dry. And also use this like embossing powder tool to make sure that there's no static and that your white embossing powder won't stick everywhere. When I emboss, I use this parchment paper. I keep it in my drawer and reuse it over and over again. I find that this is the perfect kind of paper to have the powder slide all back in your little jar. So here I'm heating the powder. And when this is finished, I'm going to cut out my images. Of course, I prefer to have the dies that match the stamp set, but they can be very expensive. So sometimes I like to save myself some money to buy more stamp set and just use my scissors to cut out the images. Both way work. You know, you do what's best for you. So this will be my little scene, but before I adhere everything down, I'm going to cut out my frame so that the red of my card base will show a little bit more around my scene. The red of the card base will pick up the red of my images, and it's going to make the scene pop very nicely. Now let's talk a little bit about adhesives. I like to use double-sided tape to glue down my things so that they stick in place. Glue dots work as well. I find that runner tapes. Sometimes I receive cards from my friends that use roller tapes, and the images are already like at the bottom of the envelope when I get the cards. So I prefer to have everything really secured on the card. At this point, I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. And I would like to wish you good luck as well. The more you will comment and like our videos, the more chances you will have to win one of the three $100 to spend in the scrap and stamp shop. So I would like to wish you happy holidays and thank you for being here. Bye bye, friends.